So it is time for us to go ahead and write the program that will take the builders, the scraper, and put it all together. But before that, I wanted to take a look at a Craigslist listing. So it is for the city of Boston, and you see there's the search method, and then you have your category. So we are going to have to create this link, so to speak, and then request that and get the information down. But after we get the information, the question is, what do we scrape? How do we scrape? So there must be a pattern, and we already know the basics of HTML. So let's go ahead and right click on one of them and inspect. So we know we need the link in the description, right? And you see here, when you hover over it, there is the link, and then you have your description. So let me just put this towards the right so you see what I'm talking about. You see, this is your description. Low mileage 2008 Scion XB, and then you have your basically your link, right? And that's what we need. Now if you hover over this, that's for the other car. And you know, if once again, if you just expand that out and go all the way here, you'll see the same thing. So remember in our previous example where I was going over the regular expressions, basically this is the link that I was using. This is the HTML tag rather I was using. So it's the attributes, the href attribute, which has the link, the data ID, it has the class, and then it has between the beginning tag and the end tag, start tag and the end tag, it has the actual description, the name. And this is what we're going to grab using regular expressions so that it can match against the entire page. We're basically going to download the entire page that you see here, and from that we're going to do regular expressions to be able to grab this element, the A tag, and from that A tag we're going to go even more granular and grab the parts, the href part, the couple of other parts here that we care about, and basically the description really is what we're going to grab after. So the link and the description, but we could also grab the data ID, the class, or anything else that we want. It's just that in this case we care about the link and the description. So that's kind of our game plan. I just wanted to go over the bigger picture so you see what we're actually doing, what we're writing this program for, and then go ahead and write it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm in the main method. You see that I have my scraper, I have my builders, I have the data, so everything is all set and everything is here. Nice. So let's go ahead and ask the user for these two inputs. First, it is going to be the city. So I'm going to say console write line, and then I'm going to say enter which city. So please enter which city you would like to scrape information from. Great. Just copy that. Then the other thing is going to be please enter the Craigslist. So please enter the Craigslist category that you would like to scrape. So please enter which city you would like to scrape information from. Please enter the Craigslist category that you would like to scrape. Great. Now let's actually, after writing these texts, right, this is just an input to the user, or rather an output to the user, but we need an input from the user. So I will say Craigslist city. So Craigslist city, and I can just lowercase that, equals console read line, and then I'm going to null coalesce it to an empty string so that if nothing is being returned from the user, I will just basically say, well, Craigslist city is an empty string. Great. Now let's go ahead here and I will say Craigslist category name. So Craigslist category name, basically still getting it from the user. So we now have both the inputs from the user. Now I'm going to use the using statement. I'm going to say, okay, well, using web client, client equals new web client. So initialize that there. Within the block, we'll be able to use it. And I'm going to say string content equals client, not car, client, dot download string. And now we're going to try to basically create the same link that we saw in Craigslist example when I was showing you. So the city combined with the search method combined with everything else. What we're actually going to do is we're going to create a constant, and we're going to name that a method. So the name of the constant is method, and we're going to say search. Remember in the link it said search. So we're going to use the same thing just with the variable, so that if there's any other methods, we can create other methods using constants and swap that out easily. So then I'm going to say, all right, well, let's actually create the link. So HTTP, and then within that, I'm going to say the city, so Craigslist city, and then I'm going to use a little trick. I'm going to say replace any empty, basically any spaces with string empty. That's so that if the city is something like New York, we can basically replace that new space York with New York. So it's like everything together. Because Craigslist otherwise will not understand what new space York is. It needs to have the whole thing together. So I'm basically taking out all the spaces from it. And the reason why I'm not using trim is because they might say, something in the middle. It might be something in the front. It might be multiple spaces. So basically, I'm just doing a replace. That'll take care of everything. And then, basically, after saying that you have now the Craigslist city, you now want to go ahead and say, all right, well, dot. I'm just copying the name so I'm not misspelling it. .org. Slash method, which is going to be search in this case. So method and slash, and then it's going to be Craigslist category name. So that's it. That's our link. This is what we're going to use to download the contents of that web page. And once we have the contents of that web page, we can then go ahead and start scraping. So remember how we scrape? Exactly. We first have to create the scrape criteria. So I'm going to say scrape criteria, and I think we need to import that from the data. So scrape criteria, and then here is the beautiful part. Remember the builder pattern? This is where we're going to use the builder pattern to create a criteria. So I'm going to say scrape criteria. I think I misspelled it, but that's okay. So scrape criteria builder, right? How fun is this? You're actually using all these concepts together to create an application. I think it's awesome. So then you can say dot with data. So we need to import that as well from the builders. Once we have it, we can use it. So say with data. And the data is basically, guess what? It's the content that we got from the web. And then we say with regex, and here's the regex part. So I'm going to say at in front of the string, so I don't have to escape any characters. That'll help me with that. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well, it was, you remember the HTML element that I inspected on the web page? That's exactly what we're basically trying to create as a pattern, so we can grab all the occurrences of those elements. So I'm saying href equals, and then, grabbing the group. This is from the example. Remember, dot star and then it's basically going to grab everything from within the group, and then we're going to have that data ID and data ID equals, rather, once again, dot star question mark, and then we're saying class equals result dash title HDRLNK. This is all from their website. We're basically just trying to copy what they have there to be able to grab the exact stuff with our patterns in it. And then at the end, we just simply say A. And then we say with regex option, and then the regex option is going to be regex option explicit capture. We'll go over that in a bit. And we actually want it to have a part. But here is the funny part. How do you think we're going to specify the part? We're going to use a builder within a builder. And that's just awesome. So we're going to say scrape criteria part builder, and we're going to say, okay, well, the part that we want to look within the element is as such. With regex, so this is the regex, and we're saying the regex is going to be this. Is going to be within, it's basically the description, right? Dot star question mark, and then we're saying, okay, specify the options. So with regex option, and it's going to say regex options. In this case, we're going to use single line, and then we're going to say build. So that's for that. And then, so let's see what it's missing. That is that. So that should be fine. And then we can say with another part, with part. I know it's getting a little hairy because we have so many things, but it's actually making it a lot cleaner. So, you know, it's just writing it out is a bit confusing because we have to include the regex and everything else. But when you actually look at it, when you're actually reading it, it's really understandable. It's very clear to follow it. So then the second one is going to be, once again, we want it with two parts. One is going to grab the description, and the other one is going to grab the link. So this is basically for the link. And I'm saying, okay, have another part builder, just like we did it above, and we're going to say with regex, you know, we are going to have href equals, you know, grab dot star question. So that's that. And with regex option, the option is going to be single line, and I'm going to build it. Then I'm going to build the whole thing. I think I missed the so this is what it is, and everything is looking good now. Yep, it was just like an extra parentheses. So now we have the scrape criteria, And we might need to clean it up a bit if it's not working. If, for example, I missed a digit or two or a letter or two, whatever it is, we might have to go back and debug it, because sometimes with regexes it can get a bit confusing because you have to get everything down to the T, otherwise it won't recognize the pattern. But the structure of our scrape criteria is complete. So we have first downloaded our contents, then we use regular expressions and builder pattern to create our search criteria, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to scrape the whole thing. And this is the meat and potatoes of our software. Scraper, yep, the workers. So scraper equals new scraper. So we're just initializing our scraper. And then I'm going to go ahead and it's going to say scraped elements. So var scraped elements equals scraper dot scrape, and scrape criteria is going to be here. And I'm going to say if scraped elements have anything in them, then obviously there were scraped elements. So, go ahead and display them. Otherwise, go ahead and say console right line, there were no matches. There were no matches for the specified scrape criteria. Great. But if there were, then go ahead and say for each scraped element in scraped elements, go ahead and console write that. So basically scraped element. Now one thing, let's actually go to scrape element, and I said scrapped elements. This has to be scraped elements. So you can actually do control RR and you can say scraped elements. And that's it. That easily you can refactor your code. It's actually a good example of going back and just changing things and basically making it better. So scraped elements, go to program. Your scraper is here. Your scraped elements, you're scraping it based on the criteria. You see if any elements came back, you're printing them out. If not, then you say there were no matches for the specified scrape criteria.